Right. I trust you've all been able to do a little bit of practice, either learning some vocab or getting some idea around the use of the nouns which we have, and the cases, and therefore how they fit into some of the sentences. So I don't want to really introduce any new grammar, English grammar. So we're going to stick with the basic sentences today. So we've got a subject, we've got an object, and we have a verb. And then we might somehow describe or give a bit further information about the nouns we're using by using the genitive case, which means possession or belonging to, or we might have an indirect object, which is written in the dative case. So we're not going to change, not going to add to that in any way. So we're going to keep our sort of basic structure together, but what we are going to do is to look at some new nouns. Okay, so we're going to look at some different types of nouns, and we're going to look at some different types. Now we will describe them as masculine, feminine, and neuter, and we'll look at the feminine nouns and the neuter nouns and how we can describe them and how we can see them and what they look like. And then that will hopefully lead us to looking at pronouns. So we've just finished with a bit of a look at pronouns. We'll talk about those when we get to them, but hopefully we'll be able to kind of add to the the nouns that we currently have. All right. Maybe just if we go on to part B, just to remind you, we had to look at this slide, and you can just look at it again. Yeah, that's fine if we go on to this one. So you'll remember, and I've mentioned this a little bit so far, verbs are doing words. Generally speaking, we are then looking at nouns, which are people, objects, or things. And we build up our sentences, that basic sentence, which we have, which is a subject. So in the case of the four examples, which we've looked at before, a friend here is the subject of my sentence. I want to tell you about the subject, about a friend. A friend is learning Greek. That's the verb, and so that's the verb here, which I've just underlined. And then Greek is the object of my sentence, telling me what my friend is learning. But we worked out we could add a bit more information to the friend and say that the friend is actually my friend. It's a friend of David. And this here is something which is written in the, or it's in the genitive case. It tells you it's possession or the idea of belonging. It's a friend of mine, so a friend of David. And in English, of course, we have two ways of writing that. We write David's friend or a friend of David. It means the same thing. So we sometimes abbreviate it and put the case, the genitive part of it, or the possession part at the front. And the rest remains the same. In terms of the indirect object, we might have a sentence which makes perfect sense. David is teaching Greek, or David is teaching Greek in either case of these. But then we add a little bit more information into our sentence by having an indirect object. I'm teaching Greek to the class. And so to the class, or for Christians, is just the Christians there, and class are indirect objects, and they are in Greek in the dative case. So that's what we were looking at, and the more you do work on translating sentences, the more familiar you'll become with the idea of the different places that words have within a sentence in order to be able to translate them. And you'll be able to see them, because in Greek, it's all about the endings. In English, we add words. So here we add the word to, or for, or of, and they tell us something of what the noun is relative to another noun. But in Greek, they do that by not adding extra words, but adding different endings. And that is what we've looked at so far. So if we just move on to, hopefully, unless there are any questions for our just a reminder there, then if we could just go on to have a look at some nouns now. So let's just come back and concentrate on the nouns. I put four nouns up for you. We're going to look at some different types of nouns. Okay, and I've been a bit concerned about this being slightly overwhelming, just because we're going to end up with quite a lot of different endings again. And there are lots of charts in Greek, sort of laying out all the different types of words and forms of words, and they do look a bit overwhelming at times until you kind of get used to using them. So by the end of the session, there's going to be a few charts, but don't worry about it. I'm hoping that with a bit of practice, again, you'll be able to pick up what's going on. So I'll give you four nouns here at the top. This is theos and arche. For some reason, I seem to be. I just need to just angle myself slightly. Hemera and teknon. So four words, and you'll notice that hopefully, if I was to tell you their nouns, even if you don't know what they mean, you'll think to yourself, "Oh dear, I've got some problems because I can do this one. I understand that, the one with the omicron sigma at the end, because we know that that's theos, that means God, and we know that that as a type of noun, and that's good. Okay, so we're fine with that. But then we come to this one here, arche, and it doesn't have the same ending. It has a different ending. Now it's got a different ending, but it's still a noun and it's a different type. Okay. It means beginning, just so we know, and we'll have a look at that in just a moment. And then we've got another type of noun here, hemera. And again, it's got a different ending as well. So this one's got an eta as an ending, and this one's got an alpha as an ending. And hemera means day. And then the final one at the end, the fourth one there is teknon. Now you have seen an ending with an omicron nu because that's an accusative in some words. But we're going to find out that there are some other nouns and other forms of nouns that have this ending here. Teknon just means child, and I'm going to be using just those words as we go through. Now I'm going to first of all classify them. So this one is known as a masculine noun. Now, we do need to be careful about the use of gender here. Gender is just a way of classifying words, particularly if you've done French, Spanish, Italian, and those languages, you'll understand the idea behind gender in terms of how nouns are. The same works here for Greek. These two are known as feminine nouns, and they have the eta or the alpha ending for their root. So this is the nominative word, so the subject word, if you like. And we have the masculine words, which we know a bit of now, and we're now going to introduce some feminine words, and they have a different ending. Okay, and that's the key. And then this one we'll look at in a bit once we've done some work on the feminine. We have some neuter nouns, and neuter nouns have a different set of endings as well. So we just classify them. You could describe them as type 1, type 2, type 3. Okay, that's it. In terms of how we tend to think about them, we talk about their grammatical gender. All right. And what I want to do is just to look at the endings for you first of all for feminine nouns and see if we can just see what goes on with those. So I've got a list, just if we scroll down a little bit. So we've got two types of feminine nouns. Now they're not completely different, okay? You'll be pleased to know, but they are different to the masculine nouns. So I've written the masculine nouns down for you so you can see them. Those are endings for God. So if we were to look at our feminine nouns, then we have arche. So arche is, as I've given you, the nominative and the accusative. Now, what I want you to try and do with this is to try and spot some patterns. If you can try and spot some patterns about how things work, it's going to make it easier to memorize what will appear to be quite a large chart of things. Okay, so any nouns I give you that are feminine, that end in eta, if you have them as an object, then we're actually going to have arcane. Okay, so it's going to end with a nu. Okay, for the genitive, we have arcase, and for the dative, we have arche. So those are our singulars. So we've got the singular words, and in terms of how they work, so these two here, the nominative and accusative, they are would mean beginning in as a subject or as an object. Arcase means of beginning, so it's the possession type part of it, and the dative is for beginning or to beginning. Okay. And then in the in the plural, so it has its own set of plurals, and we're going to have a bit of a change of letter here. So for RK, have RK like that with the alpha iota, and then RCAS, and you'll like this one because it's exactly the same as the masculine one. So it's arcone. And then for the dative, oop, did you write that wrong? Arcase. So just note first of all that for the feminine the feminine singulars, we have when they have an eta part, they have etas in the singulars, but notice that it turns to alphas, apart from the genitive plural, where you'll have this omega nu. Okay, and that's the same along the masculine. So these ones are similar. So I'll highlight those for you. Okay. Now I'm going to put the other one with it, just so you can see that when we have some feminine nouns, so this one was hemira. So hemira ends in an alpha. Okay, so it has the alpha ending. So you have an eta ending and an alpha ending. So I'm going to run through those, then we'll do a little bit of translation. So for hemira, now we just got alpha in the start of the word. So it's going to be very similar. So hemiran. So the accusative singular, notice the similarity here, but we're just using an alpha instead of an eta. And we'll have a similar thing for hemiras. And then hemira. Right, notice the iota subscript, which is quite useful to pick up on because this tends to give you a clue that you're dealing with dative words. Okay, and hopefully you can see that in terms of the actual endings, you've got something very similar going on here with here. All right, so it just has a different it's a different letter at the end there, so the eta or the alpha. Right, and when it comes to the endings, you'll be pleased to know that they're actually the same. Right, so these aren't going to change. So actually, it's only in the singular where you end up with things which are different. So we have hemire, hemiras. Yeah, sorry, just checking something then. I thought I'd gone completely mad.
You've got a genitive singular and an accusative plural with the same ending.
Yes, that's right, and you do.
Okay.
Yes.
You've got to think about what it actually means.
Yeah, that's right. So the context will tell you that. That's why it just suddenly threw me there, and I thought, I remember they are the same. Yeah, so the genitive singular, which you can see here, looks similar to this one. So this only occurs to the words, but the context will determine whether you're looking at an accusative or a genitive. Okay. Finally, then, just the last one here. Oh, hang on a minute. Just need to scroll up a little bit. Hemiras. Right, there you go. So we have like the set of words now. So I said the chart might start to look a little bit complex because there's lots of them. And one of the things to try and do is to try and spot patterns in these. If you like patterns, then you'll pick them up. You'll hopefully pick up some patterns to help you. I actually don't know what happened there. There we are. Sorry about that. Right, there you go. Right, let's do a little bit of translation and see if we can get you going at some words yourself. So let's just work through a couple of examples. If we can just scroll down a little bit, we'll just look at a few here. So you might need your vocab from the next chapter. It doesn't matter too much if you haven't learned them. You just need to try and get it in front of you. So there's the vocab at the back of the workbook, or at Duff's chapter 3 book if you want. And if we need to, we can get the vocab through for you in just a bit. So we have Adelphe tes Marias. Okay. So we are dealing with some feminine nouns now. And what we just need to do is to do our usual thing is to try and work out from an ending which case we're in. Okay. So here we have a nominative case. So the first word Adelphe is in the nominative case. So it's going to so we're going to look at the word Adelphe. You might remember Adelphos. Adelphos means brother. Adelphe means sister. So this is going to be a sister because there's no article. So a sister, and then we have Tais, and then Maries. Okay, so Maries. This is the word for Mary. And we'll notice that we're picking up a genitive, and I've realized I should have given you the articles. I do apologize. If we just drop back one moment just next to this table, we'll do the article for the feminine nouns. Okay, so the feminine nouns have an article as well. So you'll know that the article in the masculine, which we talked about, which you already have, which we've talked about before, which is ho, ton, tu, to. So if you can just scroll back up a little bit to look at the chart, please, Shane. Right, so I'll just do the article for you because we need to just refer to that as well. So the in if it's going to be associated with a feminine noun, needs to agree with it, just like the masculine nouns needed to. So we're going to need a new set of articles that agree for our feminine nouns. So the article here is haste. It's like the ending. So it's ita. So our article for our feminine nominative, okay, nouns is going to be hey, and then we're going to have these words. So tain, taste, and tay, with the iota subscript. So you'll see, of course, that they are exactly the endings that we've kind of got here in our first place. These ones are kind of maybe what you ought to expect. Just need to remember that there's a tau in front of it, which you have, of course, with the masculine articles. So these are the words for the in the case that they go with. Just to do the plural ones, just to scroll down for that. So my pen keeps picking up bits of my. So for the plural, we're going to have a, and then tas, and then tone, and then taste. So again, the endings are similar. So it might seem like there's a lot to learn, but actually the endings are going to be a bit of a giveaway here. You can see the endings here are in fact the endings that we have going on for our article. All right, so yes, it is a little bit overwhelming that we've got lots of different endings and lots of different words. And maybe it seems a bit strange that we now have another 8 ways of writing the in Greek. So we actually have 16 ways of writing the at the moment. Well, almost. Some of them are repeats. So if we can just get back to my questions, most of my examples here, then hopefully we can pick up tastes then is our article, and it's in the genitive, so we want of, and as I just said, this was of Mary. And if you remember, we talk about proper nouns tend to have the article in front of them, so it's not of the Mary, we just would translate a sister of Mary. Okay, so the next one down, we've got hey RK. So notice the article needs to agree with the noun. They need to agree in their gender and in their case. So this is the beginning. That's the word we were just working with. And then tone, hemiron. So again, just up in our chart that we've done, you'll notice that's the genitive plural. And so therefore we want the plural of days, which is what hemira is. So hemiron, so it's the beginning of days. And it doesn't make English sense to write of the days really. So we would just write the beginning of days. Okay, happy with that? Hopefully. So a new word here, ecclesia. one of those ones which you probably have heard before. It may well be that you know that that's the idea of it has this association to do with church. It means church or assembly. So this is the church, or we'll call it the assembly, the church, or a gathering of people, however you like to call it. So ecclesiastes, anything to do with ecclesial in our language has something to do with the church. Okay, so that's where it comes from. So ecclesia, hey ecclesia. So this is the singular. The article gives that away, and the ending here. And then if we put in a verb, lege, and so here we have is speaking. And if you remember, we talked about the verb lege taking the dative case. It's just a reminder, taking the dative case if we're speaking to somebody. So we are speaking to Mary. So Mary we see again there, and that's in the dative. And again, notice that it has to agree in terms of the gender, feminine, and the case, the dative case. And just to make a note here, the article doesn't change ever, even though the ending for the feminine noun might change. So Mary ends up in an alpha, but the article will always be eta. Okay. So the church is speaking to Mary. And then finally, we have hey cardia. So cardiology, cardias, you'll hopefully maybe associate with the heart. So we get our word, all the stuff to do with cardiology and so on, comes from the Greek, meaning heart. So cardia is heart. So we have the heart. And then to theou. So, of course, if we have a masculine noun in our sentence, then we're going to use a masculine article. Okay, so we'll mix up we'll get the right article depending on the noun that we've got. So we've got the heart of God. All right, so it's important to make sure that your article agrees in case and ending. Right, gone on for a little bit there. Hopefully, though, we've managed to cover a bit of ground and we've got some idea. I want you to do a little bit of practice on some. So what I'm going to do, if I give you an exercise to do, which is on the next page here, if I give you a few minutes to have a go at doing the first couple, someone suggested that it might be good just for me to check how you're getting on after a couple of minutes, just to check you're doing the right thing, rather than trying you to plow all the way through. So we'll do that. So there's 8 questions, and just give you a go. They're just on the feminine nouns with some of the other ones brought in as well. We'll bring the vocab through for you if you like, if you haven't got access to it. But do you want to have a go at doing some of those? I'll stop the recording and we'll pick it up in a moment.